So let's get a little bit of the history. So before the Resiliency Center, there was the Family Assistance Center?
Yeah, so in...
Why create that?
Okay, so in any emergency response, when you get into emergency operations at a county level, basically what happens when you have an incident, whether it's a natural disaster or whether it's something like this in the shooting, you have an emergency operation plan. And so with the emergency operation plan, one of the key components that immediately was instituted within hours of the incident was the Family Assistance Center. The Family Assistance Center existed, as you know, at the convention center. Its purpose was really, in the immediate crisis, to assist those that were attending in the crisis in that moment, and then we also were assisting family members in that crisis, because at that point, obviously, there was a lot of chaos, trying to track information, trying to find victims, those types of things. And then that really led from the recovery effort in kind of the crisis emergency to more the recovery structure, which is a resiliency center is a big part of that.
Okay, so we are at the Resiliency Center now. How long do you expect this is going to be in operation?
This was set up in about a 2.5 to 3 week period. And if you had walked in here before anything had occurred, it was essentially a medical office. So this is really designed to essentially be a recovery component, and it's designed, as I've said, in the short and the long term. We're looking at a 3-year cycle for essentially the dollars coming down from the victims of crime to support this structure. But I think the secondary discussion is we'll be having a discussion a year from now about what are the longer term needs, right, and then where do we go from there.
Okay, that's the initial plan. This place will be here for at least 3 years. But I know that other centers like this around the country have been much longer. I just learned that the center set up after the Boston Marathon event just closed. That's 7 years ago, right?
Yes, yes. So that's why you kind of heard me edge into that. The issue, the initial grant period is a 3-year grant period. So that's kind of what we set the framework up under. But again, this is an unprecedented event. Being one of the largest mass shooting in U.S. history, the issue of potential victims, and really those potential victims having a struggle in the longer term. So one of the discussions that we really have to take responsibility for is to look at, just because it's 3 years doesn't mean it stops for individuals, and figuring out how we continue that healing process and recovery process. So we'll be evaluating that longer term.
Do you think, wouldn't you know by several months if you're going to be affected? What I'm hearing is that it can be 3 years.
Yeah, I think, I think that's why when you ask me the issue in terms of the long term, where are we going? The unknown is really, the one thing we do know is people process differently. So I don't think there's a time frame to say, okay, we're 2 years out from October 1 and everybody's recovered. Really, people repress what's going on. They could move on to using substances to cope with those types of issues. It can elicit mental health stuff that they haven't seen before. So really, I don't think there is a timetable. I think the trigger point, and the trigger point could be 4 years from now. So I think that's one of the key components is, I think there's people walking around now who probably think they're okay, but something's going to trigger it and they're going to be in need of services, hence why we want to make sure people get registered. That's really critical to us because of the unpredictability of how trauma manifests itself.
It seems like in a lot of ways there's a lot of things we don't know.
Exactly, exactly. But I think what we do know is people are going to need help. So I think that's really what, from a resiliency center perspective and the collaborative effort, we know we need to be here as that resource, but we also need to be flexible.